our first story today is going to be essentially a rant for me about the Fourth Amendment. All right. Essentially a rant for me about the Fourth Amendment, because if I have not made my political views strong enough, here we go. All right. So, I never thought I would have to say this, but today on this channel live for you to see, I am very, very glad that American judges ruled against privacy today. Let me restate that. I am happy that judges in the United States struck down a plea for respect for privacy in the United States. And yes, you might be asking, like, Justin, what is this? Are you changing colors? Did you go to that Antifa rally? I knew it. Did you smoke something somebody offered you? No, I didn't. I'm still like very, again, I say this, and now listen, here's how crazy it's becoming. I have for a long, long time, like kind of interchangeably said or described myself as, yeah, like a libertarian, kind of like an anarchist, kind of like Slash over here. I kind of think that the government sucks at everything that it does. Ideally, I think that everybody should work to be self-sufficient and sustainable and be pretty excellent to one another. But at the same time, like actually be excellent and not suck, because you kind of have to be a pretty badass human being to deserve that environment, right? The John Galt environment. You can't just be any geek off the streets, as Warren G would say. You got to earn your keep. Be handy with steel. So with that being said, describe myself as libertarian / anarchist / maybe a little bit of that. Obviously back in college, leaned far more to the left, was an activist, all that stuff, right? It's getting to the point now where like you can't even say that. And this is certainly to me signs of the end times, right? Like, all right, guys, apocalypse bingo. Who had meth gators for June, right? I'm still holding out for Yellowstone Caldera in August. Fingers crossed. 2028. Now, when individuals who claim to philosophically or emotionally like argue in favor of human liberty and freedom are engaged with a large majority of their time about having semantic arguments with other individuals of the same cloth on Twitter, get out of here, man. Big shouts to Giacomo Zucco. If you guys want to follow somebody on Twitter that is what they say on the sticker, crypto anarchist, doesn't pull any punches and is honest about it, definitely go give him a follow. He's one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter. So I've never done that FF thing on Twitter. So here on YouTube, FF, Giacomo Zucco. Shout out to you, my brother. All right. So the reason why I'm happy though, is because Richard, I want to make sure I pronounce this scumbag's name right. Gratkowski. Listen, nothing against anybody who, that's kind of like, Eastern European, slight Slavic, Polish a little bit, like no disrespect to you guys, your culture. But at least where I'm from, that's a suspicious sounding last name. I'm going to get like 1,900 emails following the show that says, Justin, Gratkowski is the most popular surname in Poland, Latvia, Lithuania. And there's a class action lawsuit against you right now. All right, sorry, guys. But Richard Gratkowski, he is a former employee of a federal agency. Yes, ICE, Immigration's Customs Enforcement. They of the... I got nothing. They of the probably don't invest in their uniforms enough. So he was arrested in January of 2018 and again, I'm be careful about what I say because I don't want the video to get demonetized. But he was utilizing the darkest parts of the dark web to do what only the lowest of the low do, particularly to myself as a single father, objectivize and take advantage of children. So thankfully, the scum of the earth do not seem to be any better at covering their digital tracks than their less sociopathic brethren, kind of the Joe at the office who keeps sending you those unrequested and unrequited Facebook Messenger requests. So it is relatively easy for anybody with half a brain, i.e. law enforcement agencies who are operating on half a brain, to catch them. And that's exactly what his own agency, ICE, did, as well as the FBI. And he received, so this individual back in 2018 received 70 months in prison. So this is already kind of done with. Now, 70 months in prison, do not pass go, do not collect 200 Satoshis, do not collect that cookie at the end, the lollipop that you're going to put in your van. Insert jokes here. Now, put yourself, this might be painful, but put yourself in the mind of somebody who just got sentenced to a extended term in prison, right? Questionable. Like, what are you going to do? Like, as far as you know, it is for certain fact, the judge has already sentenced you. You are going to be spending the next indeterminate amount of your life in a federal prison. Like, so what do you do? Right? You do what anybody would do. You imagine, fantasize, go crazy thinking about any possible way you can get out of here. Right? Do you Timothy Leary it out? Do you just get buff? You guys go look up this video on Timothy Leary. Do you guys just get buff like Timothy Leary and, work something out and just, choose one night and boom, over the fence, climb in, hop in a car, boop, off to Mexico or whatever. I don't know. The last time I saw Timothy Leary, certainly wasn't live, but it was on Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. He was talking about getting high off of light. Hey, if you're doing that, brother, or if you did, big power to you. From what I hear, he died on a bed, probably tripping, surrounded by his loved ones, said it was awesome. I think he certainly faked his life. Anyways, moving on. So do you Timothy Leary it? Do you Shawshank Redemption it? Do you play the long game? Do you go to accounting? Probably not. I feel like, I don't know, maybe that's a stereotype, but I feel like somebody in federal, because it's got to be terrifying. It is terrifying, right? You're in federal prison with that label on you. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term snitches get stitches, but just imagine what they do if you have that label on you. It's a terrible experience. So you fantasize any possible way, but the most common route, unfortunately, it seems to be go to the prison library, get a few legal books, and very much like the Karen who says, excuse me, sir, I have watched 25 minutes of a YouTube video on this topic, so I am clearly an expert, and I'd like to see your manager. So very much just like that, these, wannabe jailhouse lawyers flood the appellate courts with, I'm going to call them frivolous lawsuits. They're really not, because that is a technical term in the legal system. However, having said that, that is what happened, right? So you have these wannabe jailhouse attorneys who are attempting to use any loophole, leeway, or technical consideration of the case to get off, right? Now, there are times when that happens, but more often than not, the judge ruling is going to rely on jurisprudence, right? Which is kind of let's just call it and disagree with me if you want, but this is the way I always envision it. It's like a body of knowledge, right? Like, hey, judge, what's going on? Welcome to the judge tribe. Here's your judge uniform. Your job's awesome. You don't have to wear pants to work. This is how we do things around here in America. This is how we've ruled on these things before for a long time. This is why. And so if you ever get a case in front of you where the decision of the plaintiff's life and death is going to be in your hands, right? You can rely on this knowledge, because this is what our ancestors, our judge ancestors before us, used and relied upon. And yeah, so it's not always like, oh, well, the officer, he cuffed my left hand before he cuffed my right hand. Therefore, ipso facto, you need to let me go right now. And you have to tell me if you're a cop, because otherwise that's entrapment. Yeah, did that one work for you guys in high school? Yeah, me either. So having said that, this is what this individual did. And why, I'm kind of making a big deal about this, is because jurisprudence is determined and factored and figured out by judges and courts hearing novel arguments that they haven't heard before. And so it really upsets me when, I really feel like a wasted opportunity that this scumbag got to present a case in front of a judge that was decided in such a fashion, right, that relied on jurisprudence from another case regarding cell phone data and the Fourth Amendment. But still, this is, where Bitcoin is right now in society, in American society, any jurisprudence is going to be utilized in the future. When we get to that moment where there is the, where there's the Citizen Kane moment, where like, this is the time, right? We need to know right now, because right now everything's pretty hunky-dory, right? There has not been in America a massive crackdown on the use, ownership, or like kind of transactions of cryptocurrency. What if it does come? Because it's going to really, really depend on what the jurisprudence is, what the precedents, the legal precedents that have been set are. And so when we have precedent that seems very minor now, but in the future could be a game changer, it's really a pain. It's really a pain. So at issue was the fact that the FBI, in this particular example, subpoenaed Coinbase's records. Yes, you heard that right. This individual purchased Bitcoin off of Coinbase, all the places you could purchase off of Coinbase, to Bitcoin that was destined for the dark web and illicit purposes. Yes. The story, don't worry, the story certainly only gets better. Now, according to Richard in his appeal, because Coinbase was handling Bitcoin data, it should get special privileges, more pursuant to the Fourth Amendment, even though everything is guided pursuant to the Fourth Amendment, like everything, right? Like you can make a Fourth Amendment claim on everything, okay? And as we have evolved as a society, we have a lot of jurisprudence, a lot of, body of law that determines, generally how things happen, right? So 9 times out of 10, like how often do you hear your buddy coming home and being like, yeah, man, got pulled over for a speeding ticket the other day, but I got him in court on that Fourth Amendment violation, man. He did not signal. You don't hear that, right? Because, just as criminals adopt new technology to defeat the authorities, just like black hats will always use the new method to penetrate, what the white hats protect. The white hats come back and they push back, right? And then, the black hats have to go back and they have to, kind of think about it for a while. And they're like, well, what if we click on the blue icon and we send them this, so again, security and good versus evil. It's this constant cycle of pushing back and pushing back. But, and again, so for those non-Americans, or if you were, born, if you're under the age of 18, this probably applies to you. If you're unfamiliar with the Fourth Amendment, it's a part of the Bill of Rights. It's a pretty big deal around here. And it provides that the government cannot subject its citizens, at least in America, to unreasonable searches and seizures. This has been, kind of construed and interpreted in many different ways. Also applies to warrants, or, kind of as, let me see here, as my grandfather explained it to me, come back with a warrant. That's kind of how I was raised to understand the Fourth Amendment. You a cop? Yep. Cool. Back with the warrant. So let's see here. So Richard, in his case, is arguing that the Bill of Rights says that, as citizens, we're not liable to unreasonable searches and seizures. But it has been previously upheld, and it has been previously upheld that email, cell phone records, digital communication, other things of that nature certainly have called for more stringent respect for the Fourth Amendment, for example, right? And there have been more overturns of those cases. But and not, so again, not just the Fourth Amendment does not just apply to situations involving spring breakers or young libertarian consciousness trippers, experimenting with the American-Mexico border, you crazy young kids, you. But the reality here is that this is such a bogus assertion, right? Like there wasn't any unreasonable search and seizure. There is no difference from a legal perspective between Coinbase, a centralized exchange, and Citibank. There's no difference. It is a third-party custodian who holds something of value for you that is accountable to the government, right? So if you ever walk into a bank, or if you ever deal with anybody, banks particularly, and you see the stamp, FDIC insured, that means the government owns them, right? Government owns them, right? They have gone to the government and said, yeah, we've got all this money in here. It would just be fantastic if you could insure all this for us, in case we get robbed or, bombed or flesh-eating viruses, streptococcus necrosis all over the money. Fun with Dick and Jane, good movie. And the government does that because, hey, they print the money out of nothing in the first place, right? I wonder if this whole FDIC scam, because it certainly is a scam. I wonder if they collect interest on that. But anyways, so yeah, there is no difference, because certainly if you break the law, if you are using your bank to wire money to a terrorist organization in North Korea, who I'm pretty sure, by the way, too, will not stop mobbing me on Fortnite. So if you guys would just please stop, please. I am just trying to enjoy the battle pass. Ridiculous. Then, and you're doing that through your bank, right? So if you are contributing to a terrorist organization that is against your nation state's kind of sovereign interest, then the government has, again, whether you like it or not, has every legal precedent right, and I would argue common sense right, to go to the bank and be like, hey, bank, we're going to need records from Joe's account because we feel like that dude has been sponsoring the Fortnite terrorists and we are tired of them mobbing us, right? As soon as we spawn, like they won't even let us get a gun, not even get to a treasure chest. It's ridiculous. And so we want to shut that down. Go government. You'll almost never hear me say that. Yeah. So, and the bank's going to do that. The bank is legally required to do that. And it's in the bank's best interest to do that because, like, who's a more valuable connection to the bank? You, like, just the private customer who has, I don't know if you guys seen, this is kind of a graphic, but Hostel 2 by Eli Roth. Hostel 2, there's a scene in there where kind of the protagonist, the female protagonist, we get to the climax of the movie, and you have the kind of abductors who she kind of turns to, and she says, I can't remember exactly what's said, but there's kind of like a decision point between her, who was supposed to be the victim, like she is certainly supposed to be the one who perishes in the scenario, and dude bro over here who's like, no, don't listen to her. I will give you guys way more money. And the girl's like, no, listen. I actually got real money. I got Swiss bank accounts. I got millies. I got billies with a B, no problem. And dude over here, like, sir, probably has like money, but he has like 6-figure money, right? He has like mortgage money. Yeah, he has like, lower upper class, like normal upper class successful businessman money, which is not a lot of money. So the kind of the evil person in the story turns to him and he's like, yeah, man, like more money for you is like a second mortgage. Like, this chick over here, like presses a button and there's like millies in our bank account. And that's exactly the relationship from the bank's perspective between you and the government. The government can just flip a switch and boom, multiple zeros into your bank account. Heck, they can do it for me. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe they will do it for me. Maybe if I just reach it, maybe I just ask them very, very nicely. I mean, I've been good. I haven't asked for much, right? Always voted. Yeah. Anyways, so, using a centralized exchange like Coinbase is certainly no different from using a fiat banking system. And I realize that I've been on this meme for quite a while. It is funny. So here it is on Law 360. Honestly, the jurisprudence that is set isn't that great. And so I am a little hopeful here that those judges who interpret this later on, again, here's a quote. This is a 3-panel. This was the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. This is a panel of 3 judges who rule on this. So let's see here. And he referenced the U.S. Supreme Court's 1939 decision, United States v. Miller, but bank records were not subject to Fourth Amendment protections. Or excuse me. No. The panel cited this. Yeah. U.S. Supreme Court. So here it is in black and white. In 1939, in U.S. v. Miller, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that bank records are not subject to Fourth Amendment protections. What is a centralized exchange? It is a digital currency bank. That's it. Period. Not your keys, not your coins. Bitcoin is the only thing, well, other cryptos kind of too, but Bitcoin was the first thing that you could have digitally and have it and put it somewhere, and literally nobody can take it from you unless they use force and violence, right? The government, all they have to do is pick up the phone. There's literally nothing you can do to stop the government from freezing your assets. If you have money in fiat currency, you do not control it. You do not own it. It does not really belong to you, right? How can you say that something belongs to you that somebody can just take away with a snap of their fingers? Bitcoin, you can put it in cold storage. You can memorize the seed phrase. You can burn the seed phrase. And you are the only person for all of existence that can access that Bitcoin. And that alone is valuable. That is digital scarcity. Satoshi Nakamoto solved that solved the double spend problem. All right. So yeah, this is nothing like super incredible, right? Like feds just, indicted Coinbase, said, hey, send us this dude's records. We just want to double check the address that he sent to. Yep, this is certainly the deposit address that's listed on this freaky website. And yeah, dude's guilty as sin. So another one bites the dust, and unfortunately had to kind of like butt their life or their kind of desperate struggle for normality. And certainly we can talk about like I don't know, leniency or like compassion, but no. I'm sorry. I do a lot of cool things. I have a compassion for a whole lot of people, and I draw the line real firmly right there. Like, absolutely not. Like, if there is a line, we're on this side of the line, like, hey, we're all human, we all make mistakes, it's totally cool, I got you, man. On this the line, it's like, no, give me the gun. That's the line. That's the line. All right, so I will put links to all this stuff in the description if you guys would like to research the jurisprudence more. I just kind of wanted an opportunity to rant about the Fourth Amendment. Let me know you guys' thoughts.